Welcome to Crime Alley Documentaries. I'm your host, and today we're unraveling a tragic story that shocked a community to its bones. It was February 2nd, 1990. It was a quiet evening in Walnut Grove, Mississippi. The kind of night where the stars shone a little brighter and the air carried the scent of fresh pine. The Parker family had just returned home from a church service, a routine Friday night for the deeply religious and well-respected household. It was around 9 p.m. when they pulled into their driveway, unaware that evil had already made its way inside their home. Carl Parker, 58, was a strong and disciplined man, a Korean War veteran who had built a peaceful life for his family. After his time in the military, he settled in Walnut Grove, where he worked as a mechanic and took pride in providing for his family. He was well known in the community for his generosity, often helping neighbors with car repairs for little to no charge. His wife Bobby Jo Parker, 45, was the heart of their home, kind, nurturing, and devoted to her faith. She worked as a church secretary and was also a talented pianist who gave lessons to local children. The couple had been married for over 2 decades, raising their 2 children with strong moral values and an unwavering belief in kindness. Their son, 12-year-old Gregory, was an intelligent and curious boy who excelled in school. He loved reading adventure novels and had dreams of one day becoming a pilot. Charlotte Jo, 9 years old, was known for her artistic talents. She spent hours drawing, filling sketchbooks with images of nature, animals, and her family. She adored her mother, often imitating her by pretending to play the piano. The Parkers lived a simple, joyful life, one that was about to be shattered. They had no way of knowing that within hours, their home would become the site of one of the most horrifying crimes in Mississippi history. On the evening of Friday, February 2nd, 1990, the Parker family participated in a Bible study session at Riverside Baptist Church. As the Parkers entered their home around 9:15 p.m., something felt off. Perhaps it was the eerie silence or the slight shift in the air. Before they could process the feeling, the horror began. When they arrived, they discovered 2 intruders ransacking their home. Robert Simon Jr. and Anthony Carr had been lurking nearby, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Simon, 26, had a violent criminal history, having been in and out of prison for various offenses. He was known for his short temper and lack of remorse. Carr, 24, was his loyal accomplice, a man with a troubled past who followed Simon's lead. The 2 men had spent the day drinking and looking for their next target. They were no strangers to crime, but what they did that night would go beyond anything the town had ever seen. That evening, they had broken into the Parker home expecting an easy burglary, but when the family walked in, their plans turned sinister. The family was overpowered, forced to kneel as their hands were bound with electrical cords. The assailants restrained all 4 family members before subjecting them to brutal torture and assault. Carl, the protective father, tried to reason with them, offering them anything in the house if they would just leave. But Simon and Carl weren't listening. They were after more than just valuables. They were after suffering. The burglars severed Carl's finger to steal his wedding ring and took turns sexually assaulting Charlotte Jo. Investigators suspect that Carl was compelled to witness the violent acts against his family, including the rape of his 9-year-old daughter. According to later reports from firefighters, Carl had nearly cut through his own wrist while trying to free himself from the extension cords binding him. Following the torture, Simon and Carl shot each family member. Carl sustained 2 gunshot wounds, one to his side and another between his shoulder blades. Bobby Joe was shot once in the chest, while Gregory was struck twice, with 1 bullet piercing his heart. Charlotte Joe was shot 4 times, 3 in the back and once in the hip. Gregory had tried to shield his little sister, but he just couldn't stop them from shooting her. As if the murders weren't horrific enough, they set the house on fire around 10 p.m. to erase what little humanity remained in that place. What they didn't know was that young Charlotte Joe, though critically wounded, had survived the attack. Investigators theorized that this brave girl managed to break free and try to escape. An autopsy later confirmed that Carl, Bobby Joe, and Gregory died from their gunshot injuries, whereas Charlotte Joe succumbed to smoke inhalation. The flames sealed her fate. Smoke filled her tiny lungs before rescuers could even reach her. The entire Parker family was gone. Walnut Grove was shaken to its core. A small town where crime was rare had suddenly become the setting of a nightmarish reality. The next morning, when authorities arrived at the charred remains of the Parker home, the sight was beyond comprehension. Sheriff Thompson, a seasoned investigator, had seen his share of crime, but this was different. This was a massacre. He vowed to bring the killers to justice. Investigators worked tirelessly, analyzing footprints and speaking to anyone who had seen suspicious activity that night. Within days, the pieces started falling into place. By February 5th, Robert Simon Jr. and Anthony Carr were arrested. Witnesses had come forward, placing them near the scene of the crime. Blood evidence and stolen items from the Parker home were found in their possession. The community, still in shock, demanded swift justice. Now Simon and Carr faced the ultimate punishment. In August 1990, both men were found guilty of capital murder and sentenced to death. Justice, it seemed, had been served, but the legal battles were far from over. For over 3 decades, appeals and last-minute stays of execution delayed their punishment. In 2011, Simon's execution was halted just hours before it was to take place. His lawyers argued that a brain injury rendered him incompetent to face the death penalty. However, these claims were later discredited. The legal process dragged on, reopening the wounds of the Parker family's surviving relatives. The Parker family's surviving relatives, Carl's sons from a previous marriage, spent decades reliving the pain over and over, fighting against a system that seemed to drag its feet.
How it makes me feel?
Yes, sir.
Sick in my stomach. Makes my stomach cramp to think that one of them might get off, for what he did. Yeah, it makes me sick in my stomach. A lot of people ask me, well, Scott, why are you letting this rule your life? I'm going to tell you like I've told some people. When it happens to you, then you come talk to me. Okay? Until then, you can't say nothing until it happens to you.
And I assume it just, I never had that happen to me. Nobody would want that to happen. But I'm assuming, this just has to eat at you. It's been 26 years since it happened.
Yeah, oh yeah, it eats at me. Eats at me every day. Eats at me every day. It's really changed my life. Which, maybe I shouldn't let it change my life, but it did. And there's nothing I can do about that. Yeah, it's changed my life.
And what do you want to see happen?
Justice be served. That's what I want. I know never bring back our family. I know that. But it will help ease the pain a little bit if justice is served.
They passed away due to cancer and COVID in 2016 and 2021 respectively, and never saw justice for the Parker family. According to a November 2023 report, both Anthony Carr and Robert Simon were among the 37 condemned inmates remaining on Mississippi death row. The Parker family story is one of unimaginable tragedy, but is also a story of resilience, of a community refusing to forget. The fight for justice continues, but one thing remains certain. Carl, Bobby Joe, Gregory, and Charlotte Joe Parker will never be forgotten. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Crime Alley Documentaries. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more true crime stories. Let us know in the comments what cases you would like us to cover next. Stay safe, and remember, evil can lurk where you least expect it. Please leave any theories or comments you might have for us down below. We're really interested to know what you think about this case.